Alright, episode 7. We've hit our midpoint. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So, for those not aware, I'm Rigger, this is You Alright, and what I'm about to do is a re-watch through. I've just watched the episode, and now I'm going to watch it through again, and I'll use stills on screen to show you about where we are in the episode, so you'll need to be familiar with it. Before we start, of course, like it if you like it, let me know what you think in the comments down below, share it if you think others would like it, and subscribe if you want to see more. Also, real quickly, if you're part of my channel and haven't seen it yet, or you're going to become a member of my channel and are interested, I just put out a channel update video, so I'll link that in the top right card, and you'll see it as part of the end screen. So if you want to know what's going on, now we hit the break, it'll be all in there. So let's get to the episode. Opening up, it's nice to see that level of detail. Obviously they couldn't stretch it that far when the whale crash landed, but now we're back in high def detail for the battle. It's looking pretty good. Also, it's a nice contrast to show these fields before you get to Atlas. This nice climate that they have because of their climate control. I'm sure a few people weren't even sure where we were for the first few seconds because you don't expect to see farms like this, you know, down at Mantle and all that. So that's very nice. You know, the whole season I've mentioned the Star Wars references, but seeing the two armies line up like this, especially with the bigger machines breaking the lines, how can you not think the Battle of Naboo from Phantom Menace? You know, instead of the Gungan, dinosaur things with the shield generators, they have these, but you know, the technology's kind of flipped. Anyway, just an interesting thought. Also, this is a really cool visual. Sometimes I find their smoke effects can be kind of dodgy because sometimes they're fully animated and sometimes they're like an effect layered in, but this looks pretty good. It gives you that real sense of depth and how much disturbance there is, so that's kind of cool. You know, the idea that the whale just sort of sits there and keeps vomiting up is kind of cool and gross. And also, look, shout out Apathy Grim, what's up? I don't know how useful that'll be in like a battlefield. I have to get pretty close to start doing their screams, but you know, you flood the city with them later, so it's fine. I wouldn't exactly call them warriors though, but still it's cool to just see a whole bunch of references to Grim coming through. It's a nice use of it. If you're gonna throw an army, then let's put everyone in there. I know that it can't be helped because they are like digital 3D models, and when you zoom out, things sort of look like this, but does anyone watching this really feel like it's a strategy game or something? Like you're playing Age of Empires and you got armies marching or something like that. It feels a bit like that. Just that visual. And also I guess it kind of feels like with all the white, for another Star Wars reference, the battle in Clone Wars? Yeah, because with all the smoke and stuff. Anyway, enough Star Wars references. We'll get into what the episode's really about, I guess. Will say I commend them with their use of crowds here, with all of the soldiers plus all of these people. They've really done a better job doing crowds than they had earlier in the season. You can tell sometimes in like the Atlas base when they went to Central Command and all that, there weren't really enough people there for the reaction that the girls gave, but here you really feel a crowd and there's enough unique models in there that I wasn't picking up loads of copies at like a glance, so good job, really good job. I will say I quite like the square that they're in. I know it's not the frame that's on screen right now, but if you saw it, you know, the nice grassy square. I will say I was hoping to see the glass unicorn in the background or the hotel. Maybe that is supposed to be it, but it's remodeled or something, but I don't know, it would have been a cool reference since we saw the backstory. But also, is this Eddie? Is that what they were trying? They put Eddie in? No, that's kind of funny. But yeah, I only noticed that because I saw him tweet something, and I guess it's close enough. I don't know. You know, I saw online, this is what I was saying, I saw Eddie tweet something. He said that this wasn't really written with like the 7-week gap in mind. Like it might have been the mid-season finale anyway, like, you know, it's in the right spot. It might have been planned for like a couple weeks like usual. Obviously that breaks a little longer now, which is perfectly fine. But you can tell that they've saved up their camera movement budget for this. Like this sweep in over the city was really nice. The sweep through the soldiers was pretty good. This visual is really cool with the scale. So yeah, they've definitely pulled out the stops for this one. You definitely can't see the budget stretching as much as you could last episode, which was setting up this one, so that's good. Also, yeah, I like the talk on the ship. I mean, just that first bit where they were talking about how, you know, you get the idea that yes, they are firing lots of stuff at it. No, they can't do anything. You get that they're abandoning the shield, so they're covering, you know, little bases that you don't always have time to show all the details of. And you know, obviously they're just following order stuff. Yeah. But this is something it's interesting. Like I thought that, you know, if anyone, Vine being, you know, he always came across as the level-headed talky one, just completely dismisses what they say. They have no reason to lie, and they're very insistent that they took Oscar there, so whether you believe it or not, Oscar's still there. I know they don't care, but, you know, it's just an interesting exchange, I guess. Also, again, good animations, like, facial animation's still doing really well. Gang looks good. So I'm going to have to, when I say the facial recognition is great, I'm going to have to back that up again here and say that a lot of people might not talk about this moment, but they definitely put emphasis on it, and I think it's really great, and it was watching the realization cross Winter's face that she's basically just been ordered to her death and knows it, but will do it anyway. And you see her go through that, like, you hear bomb, and she goes, oh no, like, that's terrible anyway, it's gonna do a lot of damage, and, you know, and then she gets the message, your team will deliver it, I mean, they're the best team, it makes sense, and you see across her face of, yep, this is it, like, not just the battle's impossible, but probably gonna die. The chances of completing that mission with an explosive big enough to kill that whale, and Salem's on there, and escape, she's gonna die. And you see her realize it, and process it, and then harden up and put her mind against it, you know, like harden herself to it. And it's a great moment. For someone like Winter, who her emotions have always been not as hidden as she wanted them to be, seeing her have to hide something like that is pretty intense, and I really enjoyed their work on it. Thank you for taking the time to cover that. Thank you for this close-up and this sweep shot, and great work on the faces again. I got it, so... You know, you conveyed it very well, and it's an important thing to see, especially if you're ordering basically people to their death. All the mooks and goons on the ground without faces, we know not to count them, but this is a real character, so yeah, excellent job. So here's what I'll say. Her orchestrating everything like a maestro is fantastic in theory. This shot is really cool. The idea is great and the music's pretty good. The only thing that detracts it for me is it's the exact same thing we saw Watts doing in 7. To see villains repeat a motif, and I know that it worked with him and it worked with her. These moments work, they're good moments. It's just that when I saw it, I'm like, that's really cool. It's too bad I saw a different villain do it just last season. And it definitely has more impact for Salem doing it. And I know that, like, you could say he was puppet mastering strings or whatever, or, you know, because they didn't put the classical behind it, whereas they did here, but still, it's very much the same sort of motions. So I really love it. I just wish that Watts's poses and stuff had been different before, because it would have made this even cooler. But I'm not saying this is bad, because it's not. It's really cool. Also, I love the added detail of her eyes lighting up when she's clearly, like, influencing Grimm and using powers even while she's moving. It's a great little touch. Okay, we gotta do a couple checklists. First off, love that Emerald was there. Weird Salem didn't know she was there, but I get she's very distracted with all her stuff, so definitely buy it, that's fine. I like the expressions on Emerald's face as you see her harden and have to go, we gotta figure this out, like, this isn't right. And, you know, again, something we've built up to, because you saw her in Volume 3 with that similar expression. Yeah, it maybe took her too long to come around to, you know, really thinking this is a bad idea, but, like, from all that time, but still, we are following up on it, so positives. The only negative I'll say is, what is this? How is she hiding from this Grimm? She affects people's minds and makes them see things the way she wants them to be seen, including making herself invisible to them. I didn't know that Grimm had a mind in that same sense. I didn't know she could do that. That seems very weird. And unless... It can't be that... Is it connected to Salem's mind? I don't think so. And she was using it on Salem through it? That's weird. It just is strange. It felt odd. I felt you could have just had her hide. I don't know. The fact she mind-tricked a Grimm doesn't feel like they... Because, you know, they don't even see normally, according to Rand's ability. If you hide your emotions, they can't see you. So she can hide herself from its image, but she can't hide her emotions, so it should still... I don't know. You're starting to get, like, conflicting things there. It just felt like it's in theory a cool shot, but in logic it doesn't really seem to work, or it seems to clash. I know we're not supposed to ask those questions, but I am. These are just my thoughts, and it immediately sprang to mind when she did it, so yeah. Anyway, moving on. Alright, now we gotta start really talking. So, let's go through it. So, Hazel's motivations for no more Huntsman Academies makes sense in theory, but the way he's gone about it still makes no sense. And, Oz's proclamation that Salem's goal is to gather all the relics in hopes that a divided humanity when the gods return means they'll follow through on their threat, destroy the world, wipe it from existence, and her along with it. That was always my sort of base goal. Like, when people say, what does Salem want? I always said, that sounds about right. And I've heard that stupid, why would she think that they would, you know, give her release? And I think, yeah, maybe. They could definitely just put her on another planet and let her keep suffering, but I can see that she would want to attempt it. I mean, there is no other option, so why not try? I've also heard much more complicated and double-crossing and, sneaky goals for her. And it is something I did think of, where she's actually the good guy trying to unite the world against her, so they are united, and then when the gods return, they see a united humanity and not her, and she would actually save the world, and that's her ultimate goal. That's an interesting one for sure. But at least the fact that Oz thinks her release death when the gods return makes sense, at least to him. So even if it's not her ultimate goal, or even if there's questions about her, even if she's being double-crossing and sneaky, it's logical for him to think that. So that makes sense. Now we move on to this Hazel bit. Again, I like the reference to over and over again. But yeah, he tried to kill Salem. Well, he did kill Salem multiple times when she came for him. I think that's very interesting. I don't think people will probably complain that, oh, we're trying to make Hazel so powerful he can kill Salem, like, you know, end her and she'll just come back. I don't know if that's the case. I would think she let him do it, and it just to prove to him how impossible it was. You know, the only thing stronger than a show of power is a show that it does nothing. So she might put up a fight, but she wants him on side. So she, you know, lets him kill her with a fight each time and just returns until he realizes how impossible it is. That makes a lot of sense. So I think if people complain that they've made Hazel too powerful because he can kill Salem, I don't think that's legitimate. I do think it was interesting he said the longest she was gone was a few hours. Like, I didn't think she'd ever take that long. Because, like, when we saw her, like, Oz melted her to goop and she reformed in seconds. So that's scary. I don't know if we need a few hours. Even if you burned her to pieces and scattered her to the wind, it feels like they should just whoop back together. But I mean, I'm not mad about it or anything. It's just an interesting detail that they've either changed or they didn't think about, or they want to change for future things. Who knows? Also, while we're on the screen, I'm just going to cover the rest of their conversation. Oz, I do like that Oz said, yes, I do deserve what you dish out to me, but obviously Oscar and Rest Remnant doesn't. But these, I know people can be blinded by hate, and I know that Salem's manipulative, and I know that Hazel was, you know, scared by her show of power and wanted vengeance and could be influenced, but like, it's a big stretch to think that murdering all those people and actively helping her is, even if she promised the New World Order and he didn't know about all the relics, it's still a bit much. I know that they're making strides. They want to try and fix Hazel, it seems. They want to make him something, but I applaud the attempt. But I think you needed a linchpin, and I didn't see it. I like this Hazel better than I did Hazel, like, just whatever last episode he was in. But this is an episode where they went out of their way to address a few things, to clarify a few character things, and put some things into the show. I like that. At least they try. Sometimes it's very blatant and ham-fisted, which it doesn't have to be, but, you know. But they are trying, and I'll applaud them for trying. And I applaud them for trying with Hazel. I just think they didn't quite get there. But, you know, all progress is good. So that's what I'll say about that for now. Okay, last episode was like my longest one, and I knew it would be. This might be longer because I'm realizing I have so much I want to say. Let's talk about this. Nora's moment of, now what am I good for? That's what she murmurs out when she can barely keep her eyes open and is in horrible, horrible condition. I love it, actually. There's so much that happens in this episode, but one of my favorite bits too, because I said it when it happened, is her proclamation of, you know, what can I do except be strong and hit stuff, and then she proclaims, no, I'll be strong and hit stuff, and I said, that's not undoing that question, it's that she needed to do that right now, but now that's over, and she took the consequences of that. She surely anticipated to a degree. Now she has to say, who am I? And she's asked the question before, who am I without Ren? I hate to keep saying Ren has more death flags, but he's gathering more death flags, and this scene is one, and he'll get one later. But yeah, this is great and fantastic, and I love that we're asking this question, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Yes, now what is she? And it's not that she won't ever smash stuff again, I'm sure she will, but, like, to not only realize you don't have much of an identity on your own without, you know, someone so close to you, and then to realize your skill set is, to your idea, pretty narrow and, you know, not fulfilling to you, and then to use it to legitimately save everyone, but you put in a state where you can't even do that, and then you have to face who you are. It's perfect. It's such a great soul-searching moment to be stuck in bed, to be stuck with your thoughts, helpless, and having, you know, powerless, especially when your whole identity was around how strong you were and what you could do physically, and have to consider it. It's really good. So Yeah, I've just talked for like, it was a couple minutes or whatever on one line, so this is gonna be a long one, but I really enjoyed this. Okay, I have so much to talk about. I like Blake being their voice. You might say it's Bumblebee. It's not really. She is thinking about the others. Like, we're bringing that up. We haven't forgotten about them. We do really care, especially with what's outside. She does really hope that they're okay because they don't know. And Weiss, sums up the scenario and saying, like, do we wait? Like, that almost, it's sort of implied, but like that almost seems silly. We don't know if anyone's even coming. And obviously, I'm not going to be the first one to say it because I probably won't get my video out first, but I'm mentioning it. Yeah, RWBY. Remember I said in my opening analysis that there's a lot of comparisons you could draw between RWBY and Salem, and one of those shots mirroring her exactly was her face underwater and drowning just like Salem drowned. And then look at this shot, because this is a direct copy of the shot of Salem looking in a teacup when she was talking with Oz. I'm just saying, more parallels. Yeah, looking down at a reflection and thinking is very common, but both of them did it in a teacup. I'm just saying, direct comparison with Salem, there's something to this. It might pop up in a theory soon, I'll have to think about it, but I noticed, I did it, so I didn't copy anybody, I did notice it myself. And I will add in not just that I like RWBY obviously doubting herself or doubting her abilities, because like she openly says that thing is way bigger than a Leviathan, and like she wasn't enough to take that down even with Silver Eyes. So it's not just like we have the easy win button, just Silver Eyes it. Like, no, you couldn't even stop the Leviathan with that, and that thing dwarfs it massively. So yeah, we're addressing that it's not just that easy, or at least they don't believe it's that easy, and it shouldn't be. Okay, so we gotta talk about it. First of all, I'll say I am not the best person to discuss this, so I'm not going to discuss, whatever, her motivations or whatever for bringing this up. But what I will say is let's talk about it as a narrative and how we're doing it, and as a show. I really like that it's mentioned. It's one of those things that's sort of unfortunate that, especially in animation, it can be a hard thing to convey exactly, someone's biological sex and identity, like if there's a differential there. So I think it's one of those things where, like, you can look, it's, famous in anime and everything for characters who look like the opposite sex to what you'd think, or are very sort of in between, or you can't really place it, very androgynous sort of thing. So it's hard to bring up passively. You almost need someone to openly address it. And they did that here. I am in two minds about the way they did it. Obviously the fact that no one has any questions or, brings it up or whatever, like they just let it slide, it's just normal, that's fine, is fantastic. Obviously, you want, especially for our main characters in that, and if you don't want to make it an issue, they're very accepting, that's cool. Absolutely perfect. But the way that it was done here almost feels like it was meant to be a reveal. Now, there's issues with that. First of all, we knew about it before. Like, it's been in the not marketing, but it's been, said online and social media. We all knew about her being transgender, and that's, perfectly fine. And though it takes away if this was meant to be a reveal. However, I also don't know if something like that, making it a reveal, is sort of disingenuous. It's like, something that we should be trying to normalize, and, something that people should become far more accepting of. Making it a twist sort of then makes it, sort of undercut the trying to normalize it, because, it's shocking, right? So that is a point for it, I like that. It was presented a bit like it was meant to be a twist or a shock, but we knew about it, so it didn't work as a twist or a shock, but I also don't know if it should have been used as a twist or a shock, so it's better that we knew about it. So that's what I mean, I'm sort of don't know how I think about it. As a story, I think it's interesting that obviously the direct comparison is between herself and Weiss, and she talks about how they have Henry and she has Whitley, and that'll come up later. And it's good, being like people with different family issues, and also very similar motivations. She chose Mantle, she chose the underprivileged and left a privileged life, and Weiss sort of did the same. She wanted to, well, not really by choice, but she did go to be a huntsman. She didn't lose all her money by choice, but same thing. both of them had priorities as the people, and both of them clearly have family issues. And so I think that's an interesting comparison, and I like the battle of classes here, where when I say she, May insists that they have to go to Mantle and help down there because that's obviously where her priorities are, and that makes sense. And Weiss is saying, people are dying here too, and it's not that her priority is Atlas, it's just that that's where they are now. Like, people are dying everywhere. There is no right answer, and I like that. Bringing up the no right answers is good. It's just when the show forces you to think one or the other is right, or they clearly lean one way or the other, it's okay to say there's no right answer, because here there really isn't. They've said they can't take down the whale, and there are soldiers here, so maybe the people here are better off, but also people are dying just as bad, and it's their responsibility to protect people. But, someone has priorities down in Mantle, so do we go there? So, yeah, it's good. So I like that. One last little point I'll add on is that May makes sure, when she did the son-daughter flip, but, putting that aside, she said, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew I wasn't their daughter anymore. And that was something I thought, a lot of people have thought that Weiss should have done, especially when Jacques was running for politics, is come out officially and be like, hey, I'm his daughter, and nah, I'm not part of that family, they're terrible people, etc. He could have gone public with it, so it's an interesting approach, and at least May's saying she did that, or to some degree, she probably didn't get on the news, but, she made it very public knowledge, and that's really interesting. And I guess Winter's sort of, maybe, it's hard to say. Sometimes the repetition of lines and people reusing lines can be too obvious and annoying, not always, but that does happen. But here I like it's a good one, the whose side are you on, and we, flash back to the Aesops, and obviously the Happy Huntresses are like an inverse Aesop sort of thing, for the different classes. And and RWBY saying they want to help everyone, but you also have to face that that's not always possible. So it's cool to see. It's a cool interaction to bring up, and a good repetition of that idea here. And I won't show another screen for it because I'm getting too many already. Editing's gonna take a while. But the fact Whitley was listening in and that helped sway him is really good. Glad we got to help progress on Whitley, and I'm actually pretty happy with how they did it. So I now realize that way too early I went on about Salem's motivations and all that. I sort of jumped the gun because I knew this was coming, so skip forward a little bit more. But I'll highlight this because this looks great, and we get the time passing. We see how long this battle's gone on. Some of that sort of won't make too much sense. I guess the sun was setting when we got here, but yeah, the darkness setting quickly, but still it looks pretty cool. Also, yeah, it makes sense that Hazel wouldn't trust him because, that's literally his motivation. His Ozpin is bad, don't trust him. So the next bit makes a lot of sense and is cool. Alright, ballsy move for Oscar, and I am here for it. Hell yeah, man. Some would say it's dumb or, bad idea, but no, this is good. This is good plot. I like that name's floating around now. I want something tricky or cool to happen with this lamp, and the fact that the name is out there now is cool. There's a lot of ways you could use it. And I like Oscar's play of he doesn't trust you, let me do it, and then just gives him the answer and is like, hey man, but I've told you all this, you're questioning things, you've got questions you need answered, I've given it to you, are you gonna give it to Salem or are you gonna try and use it? Now I don't know why Salem would ever leave the lamp out of her hands, especially how much he's tried to get them. I know it probably wouldn't look dignified and evil to be hanging off her hip all the time, but I don't know where she would keep it otherwise, but anyway, I don't know how he'd sneak off and get it, but still, it's really cool. And if not, I wonder if you could just yell the password while it's in your presence, even if you're not holding it. Because RWBY was holding it when she called out Jin. So maybe it's because she was holding it and said it, or maybe it's just because she called it, she was the one who could ask the answer. Ask the question, and it would respond to whoever called it. I don't know. Technicalities, but obviously Salem doesn't have it in her hands right now. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know why she would ever leave it out of her sight at all after how much she tried to get it. I don't care how much she trusts her generals. See, this is what I meant when I say that name's in play now, because Emerald overheard. Yeah, she's not focusing on that part, but she knows. That means Cinder could know. That means other people can find out. So, yeah. Interesting. And also, I like that we're teasing several flips this episode. We've got definitely teasing a Hazel flip. We've definitely got an Emerald flip. We will get a possible Mercury flip. Teasers. None of them have totally done it yet. But, lots of characters. If you have this many characters, you got to give them all something to do. So at least we got people in motion. Can I point out this is my favorite joke of the episode? There aren't many jokes this episode, but this one's a bloody joke, and I love it. It's confirmed. Anime characters just have repetitions of all their outfits. They just have 3, 4, 5, 6 copies of their outfits and they just carry them around. So if you're ever wondering why they don't change clothes, they do. They just buy their outfits in bulk because that's the same shirt over and over. So yeah, my favorite lighthearted bit of the episode that people might miss. Maybe you could say they're being lazy with the models. I don't care. That's funny. So moving on. Although I don't know why everyone uses this staging room, or do they all just have the same room? And also their beds suck. Salem needs to work on her accommodation. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, first of all, Mercury's rationing, it's not that it's, right, but it makes sense. It's logical. It's like, well, even if it was true, Hazel can't beat her, and we can't beat Hazel, so what are you gonna do about it? It's at least from a position of fear, it makes sense of, well, what do you expect us to do, even if it was true. But I love the chaotic ball of crazy that is Tyrian just being like, what are you talking about? Of course she's trying to blow up the world. And obviously he would be perfectly fine with that. Like, no doubt. That's what I said even last time if Oscar got the word out at the meeting. He'd be like, yeah, and that's fantastic. I just love it. He's like, he just tells them, and I love that in his mind it's like, he doesn't even think that would be an issue. It's like, that's fine if I tell them. What are you talking about? Of course it is. One, you can't stop her anyway, and two, I don't care who you go and tell. Like, I'm not even thinking about it. It's just, isn't it glorious? It's great. I just love Tyrian, man. He was perfect to put here. Also, this whole episode has so many eavesdropping. It feels like a comedy or something where like there's a bunch of students in a dorm and they all listen at each other's doors and don't realize who's listening in on who or something. It's like some Scooby-Doo chain where, Emerald was watching over Salem, and then she went and listened to Hazel and that, and then went and told Merc, and then they walked out and they were being listened to. But it's just like a constant chain of message passing and people listening in and eavesdropping and interrupting. It's kind of funny. I will say the animation on Tyrian through this whole little bit is fantastic. They're doing great work with his tail, giving it character. It can be an issue. You can sometimes see it doing sort of nothing behind him or in patterns earlier because, it's a lot of time to spend on it and it's an annoying shape and all that. So fantastic work with that. And his obviously, declaration that's awesome. And as someone who loves writing, sometimes lines are too on the nose and you're like, why did they say that? But sometimes there are lines you just, for your own satisfaction, have to make characters say, and having Tyrian tell other people that they must be out of their mind is too good to pass up. So they get a free pass because it's just too great. So don't judge this line. It's too good. I would have had him say it too. So you can't see it in the still frame, but we'll start at the beginning. I like that he calls him Mr. Black. That's funny, and it made me have like a Reservoir Dogs flash for a second, but whatever. Is there Mr. Black in that one? I mean, I know they're all Misters. I can't remember if Black is one of them. Anyway, but yeah, there was that overhead shot of them walking, and there's like one of the Gorilla Grim, like from the ceiling. Are you supposed to imply that Salem was somehow listening or something? I don't think so. I think it was just meant to be a cool shot and to remind you that there's Grim through the ship. But we'll see, because it was sort of a poignant shot that they made sure to include, so who knows. But this little nod that he gives Emerald, I think this was a flip. I think this was after he said what he said, after Tyrian said what he said, and after Emerald's concern, and there's still legitimate connection. Like, they clearly have a connection to each other in whatever form you want to say, whether it's just that they're friends and have worked together. They clearly do care about each other to a degree. He hasn't flipped and is totally, I keep saying flipped. He hasn't totally gone over to the dark side and forgot about Emerald. He clearly values her opinion and what she has to say. He just didn't really believe her the first time, but now he's heard this and heard it from Tyrian. And he's like, he gave her a small nod. I think I would not be surprised if when we get to Vacuo, which is good, I'm glad they're sending some characters away so we have some room to move here. Because, too many characters, but getting some of them out, interesting. And also it means we won't get a Tyrian Crow fight, which is sad. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mercury, we either get a fight with him and Tyrian, he tries to get away, or he succeeds in getting away and tries to help. Because, he seems to legitimately have been like, okay, they're trying to end the world, that's not cool, and I'm away from Salem, so, I don't know if he can beat Tyrian, but, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see him flip. So that would be cool to see, that would be a cool thing to come around to Vacuo on, whenever we get there, so, interesting. I was going to let the scene play more, but I realized I need to talk about the next bit on its own, so we'll cover this bit first. First up, Jaune, thank you so much, because people are going to say he was being stupid or whatever. No. The thing they always tell us about Jaune, and the thing they've always implied about Jaune, is he's actually really quite smart and strategic, and damn, he just pulled off a good one. I'm proud of my boy. Good work. Yeah. he found a reasonable solution that could get past Winter's orders, or ish, and be like, hey, here's a logical plan. Like, let us be a test run. Let us go in, and if we come out, we can tell you what's in there, because you don't know what you're facing, and then we can try and get Oscar. Like, all these things line up and make sense. Let us do it. And that'll pay off, and that's fantastic. Great thinking on your feet, Jaune. So, you know, that's proper leadership there. Like, not just telling people what to do, but figuring out solutions, especially when you're in a tight spot. Man, he did good. And next, I like them bringing up, wouldn't you do it for each other? And they all look around basically like, no, that's stupid. And you get, of course, Marrow's look of, yeah, of course he probably would, but you know, it's a good moment of like legitimately putting it to them and them putting up their facades, which we'll see in a second. Alright, now let's talk. So I like Ren thinking it out. It's really good, and I like that I'll just jump to Winter for a second. That Winter's struggle with hiding her emotions, we now see, is the same with all of these people. That they're all forcing themselves to act a certain way. They really don't think the way that they proclaim to. They're all going through that struggle Winter is. She's just not as good at hiding them as some of these are. Or, you know some of them, they do let them slip sometimes as well. But it's nice to show, like, that they really have been taught to think a certain way, but that doesn't change your feelings. And feelings do matter. And I love, just like his semblance was activated non-combat, I love that his evolution was activated non-combat, and he had the exact same expression. He had the calmness come over him and the realization. And this is a really cool evolution of his power. It's still non-combat as a power, but someone's power, but it's a great evolution of he can hide his emotions and the emotions of others, and when you push that past it, he can see the emotions of others. That's fantastic. It's really well thought out. He's the human mood ring, which is funny. But it's a really cool idea for an evolution. Only thing I'll say is this is another death flag for Ren because, how do I put it? When you get a really cool ability that would be exceedingly useful, which this one incredibly is, it's oftentimes a mark for death because you're too useful. And this might be too useful. Every negotiation ever from now on, he can just tell what people are feeling. And yes, this show sometimes forgets what people can do or forgets to use them in situations they should be using them, but this one's very powerful for every single social interaction ever. And it's very interesting to give it to him, but I feel like if he has this ability, I don't know how much longer he can go in the show with this ability. And it's very oftentimes to give a character what seems like big growth right before they die, because you're trying to make you expect it less, and also you think of everything that they could have been and how useful they could have been and what was taken away. So it's not points in Ren's favor of survival, but it is incredibly cool. And he just unlocked like social god mode, which is really, really, really interesting for someone like him who doesn't talk but is very observant. Makes a lot of sense. And now we'll go through those emotions. So, going through that, he can just read those emotions pretty solidly. So you've got anger and fury from Harriet. You've got anger and boiling rage from Elm. And then you have actual serenity from Vine, which is really funny. Like, just level, he's fine. And you have cruel sadness and I guess a depression or whatever for Marrow, blue and down. And then you have him with the pink, and I'm really curious, when this is up, is he hiding his emotions? Is it a reflection of, as we all know, his water lily? Is it pure? Is this what, pure, not, hiding your emotions and being perfectly balanced feels like? Or is this reflecting an emotion? Does he have love, worry, doubt, sinking feelings? Because usually pink's emotional, red's anger. Usually pink is love, or at least, some similar emotion. And his are falling, whereas you saw, the red ones were rising and the green ones were just spinning in place, and Marrow's were falling because they were down. So I'm curious what emotion he's feeling, or if it's a sort of pure representation of being at peace because his semblance is sort of up while he's doing this. Very interesting. Very technical, though. Probably not supposed to think about it too much, but also this is the reference for the opening. That's pretty cool. So I like that they did something interesting with it. Okay, but this one I'm not sure about. Like, I know that was their explanation and the implied explanation, and people were mad about it, and this feels like he's saying it like that's just fact. Not too happy. I don't know what else it would have done, but this is one of those ones where when sometimes, the trans thing was put in pretty well. The what was the other thing? The other explanation line. Oh yeah, like the whose side are you on thing. You know, some of these are them repeating info and making things obvious to us, or clarifying things that we knew outside the show but aren't in the show yet. This is one of those moments as well, but this one feels ham-fisted, and I'm just not as sure about that. I also don't know why that's where Ren's emotions were, Ren's thoughts went. That's why you lost against Team RWBY. Like, they're not even in this conversation. It feels kind of jammed in because they wanted to get an explanation in there. But what I will say is, I have a big hope for him and Nora when they meet up, that he will give in to his emotions, because that was his exact criticism just now, that the reason you lost, which the losing, whatever, but the reason for that is you fight how you feel about each other. And then he would, of course, hopefully realize that he fights how he feels about people, especially Nora, so he shouldn't do that anymore. There's your growth. There's getting that relationship back. So hopefully that's what we get out of that. I'm not happy about the way they did the Team RWBY line, but I am happy if that gives him the growth needed to realize he should be honest with his feelings for others, and we work towards that, reuniting and that character development overall. So overall props, I just wasn't happy about the way that they blatantly said whatever, but I think we're getting some really good growth, so that's cool. And boom, Winter crushes her sister with delivery of the burns. The go to your room line, This one, hell yeah. Love it. This is gonna be everyone's, meme reaction image that they'll put everywhere. I can't wait to see the meme format, because they'll be coming from this one, and I'm fine with that. And I do like that it's also flipping something that, you're also military, so yeah, you pay attention to this rank. Great. And Winter's decided, yep, we're gonna try it. And, really good stuff. So, just had to slip it in there, that if I'm going to say one of these, clearly this was made for this. Like, when they wrote this line, they went, yep, it's going to get a reaction out of people, and that was what they were hoping with the go to your room as well, and I don't think that one worked, but this one's good, so great job. And also, yeah, I'll add on that, she of course brings the military caveat of, we're still going to blow it up if you aren't back in time, but, you're heading into what could be death anyway, so it's not extra scary. Your plan is pretty much suicide anyway, so the fact there's a bomb coming in after, oh well. But, yeah, at least that they're still going to do the mission, so everything adds up, so all good stuff. Yeah, so remember I said Ren was getting death flags? This is what I meant, because it's not just he might be reaching that he's got this ability. That's not going to get death flags. He's not social god mode. That's putting too much weight on it. But no, look at this. He's basically mind reading at this point. He's reading their emotions to the point he can get context, apparently. And he's going to do it to Winter in a second, too, where he's like, you don't want to do it either. He literally knows what everyone is feeling all the time, whenever he wants, to a pretty personal degree. That's really, really, really powerful. That means you can spot traitors, liars, you can spot everyone's intentions, good or bad. This is a very incredibly strong power, especially since it doesn't seem to be too draining. He's not hurting for aura, he's just had it up. So yeah, I would really, at least in my personal opinion, I would really be, getting those flowers and getting some tissues, because tears might be coming, because this is death flag material. So I like the scene, I like what he's doing. I don't like how blatant he talks sometimes, but I guess it fits his character. But yeah, just saying, this is more set up. So this is more set up on that idea. Maybe they won't do it, but I've said they probably were going to do it before this season. The first video I made ever was that they were probably going to do this, and you can't not see it. So I'm just putting it in there, but still, it's cool. I'm making so much more work for myself, but I will say this as well, though. I like this of someone conflicted, fighting emotions and feeling many things at once. He can read all of it. Again, very godlike power, but really cool, and seeing it all mix. There's anger there, probably what she's been asked to do in the situation, and everything that's going on. There's sadness there, everything that's going on, and what she's again, I'm just repeating myself, but all these same emotions about the same thing. And then the green sort of resolute that she's still going to carry through with this. She still has that confirmation, you can read all of these things, so it's pretty cool. It's a good visual, at least. So I really like this outburst from May, because we mentioned Crow and Robin, who I'm amazed we still haven't seen them properly do anything yet, but makes sense. So they're second half of season things, and she's like, no, stop worrying about them. They can't help. We're not gonna go raid the military base where all this crap's happening anyway, and they're not powerful enough to help us just on their own either. So, we got real stuff in front of us. This is my priority. I'm gonna do that. You could have multiple priorities, and I'll even drop you off to do it if you want to do it here, but you gotta choose. this is not a situation where everyone wins. Great line, because it's true, and she's recognizing that, and it's, look, you know what? Choose. You have to choose. Like, no more, dancing around it. It's time. And that will be interrupted, unfortunately. But I do like that the characters are being like, choices are tough and suck and are hard. But guess what? Choice time. Because, you're doing nothing otherwise, so choose. And that's great. And, we'll move on to what happens next. Oh, there he is. It's Klein. We all wanted to see him again. Everyone thought we'd see him in the slums, but, I'm fine with this. This makes sense. It's very Alfred to come in and be the doctor, but yeah, there he is. At least this is what I said when they were ticking boxes earlier. They're not just putting things into the show that we, knew outside of the show, but they wanted confirmed and things like that. Made them sort of canon, but they know everyone would want to see him back. Like, that's been obvious since we left him. So yeah, this is a good role for him. I'm happy about it. So, but anyway, we'll move on just real quick because we'll get to the situation surrounding this. So, yucky emotions, get away from me. It didn't get me the first time, but the second time, I got a little side of a tear there. It's not the hug, it's Whitley's reaction. It really is great. It gets my gold star of the episode, and I thought I gave that away earlier to Nora. I'm sorry, Nora, I'm taking your gold star. Whitley gets the gold star. Yeah, it's not that the hug, because, Weiss is gross. No, it's the look of relief on his face and the sigh. Like, when was the last time this hug, if ever, happened? Or any hug where someone cared this much about him, where he got genuine care and human emotion. He got comfort. That's something that is sorely underplayed for everyone. It's not just like how do I put this? There's a whole thing online a lot about, especially, I don't want to make it a gender issue because it's not, but men need hugs and men don't show as much of affection in that. And it's not a male thing I'm trying to say here, but seeing a young guy like this, a young boy who has gone through hell in his home life and turned out pretty rotten because of it, seeing his relief that not just anyone but his family who he thought abandoned him gave him actual support and care in a loving moment, that really hits home. I had a whole thing I was going to say before about how he was acting like Sundar, hey, like, I didn't do it for you. I mean, obviously not romantically, but you know what I mean. Like, he had like that whole, it wasn't for you, idiot. But I don't even care that I don't think Weiss's line, that's why I mean so much, was that it wasn't that well delivered. I like the line because it's like, yeah, you're caring for other people and that's the growth that we all wanted to see. But no, all of that completely out of the way. And the fact that he called Klein and Klein was happy to see him, that's great too. And this is a perfect way to use him if you're going to use him, Whitley. If you're going to use him in a small role for redemption, it's not a whole arc where we see things change. I had a whole video I was going to make about him. I might still make it because I could still work it with this, but although the war kind of messes it up, we'll see. Sidetrack. His relief and his, it's like de-stress. Everything's going to hell outside, but he really let go here. He dropped all that, character he had to put on to survive. And he really just was warmed and, this was great. This is my, you know what? I'm not taking a gold star off you. I'm giving you another one. Gold star for the season so far. And I don't know how you top it. That one little cut to him and that one little sigh meant so much to me as a viewer. And I'm amazed how much I'm talking about it. That was really good. One of the best moments in RWBY was this hug. I'm calling it now. That's my opinion. I'm really overtired. I have so much more video to make. I've got so much work to do after I finish this recording to get the video to you, but I'm still spending like 5 minutes on this. This was great, but we do have to move on. There's a little bit more to cover. Cannonball! Yeah, I got really emotional and serious talking about how Whitley was, but damn if this volume isn't also giving me multiple chibi references, like the stomping the mud with Cinder and what RWBY did that I talked about in that episode, and then the cannonball here. Also, man, I'm hoping it was somehow on purpose. I guess not. I mean, I'm supposed to assume it's luck, but if it's luck, she's very lucky, and if it's not luck, she has great aim, Too bad there wasn't, something softer to land on. but I guess from that height it's not going to matter. But this is a cool cliffhanger. We talked about cliffhangers before, how this way everyone, like, this was definitely going to end on a cliffhanger. That's just how all the episodes do anyway. But it's mid-season. Even if it wasn't meant to be giant mid-season, it's still mid-season. We've got a couple cliffhangers. This isn't a bad one. Alright, last bit I'll talk about before we go to a real recap. So, yeah, her saying I'm sorry is, whether it was for the fact that things have gone this way or the fact she couldn't hold Amity up more or whatever, interpret it however you like. Pretty strong, pretty cool. I like that she's electrically sparking and, there's goop and all kinds, you can see she's malfunctioning, reminding her that she is a robot. Not that we need reminding, but, you can do that visually, which is cool. And also, they can't really help her or do much. But also, I like that you're gathering characters at Schnee Manor, right? Like, Klein doesn't really count, but you have, for, like, combat and that. But you're adding characters together, so at least we're bringing together some of these teams that need to be. And then you have, like I said, your cliffhangers of, Penny's here now, Jaune and them are doing suicide mission. You've got Mercury's gone, but you have the leading question of whether that'll lead him. You have Salem orchestrating death. You have Emerald, who knows the password and might be flipping as well because she just learned how crazy all this is. You have Hazel, who knows the password and might use it for something else, use it for himself, and he might flip as well. So you got a lot of stuff going on. And you have all the Aesops questioning themselves now because Ren activated emotion vision, which is cool. Let's take a second and I'll come back with final thoughts. Okay, final thoughts. I've just taken like 30 seconds to collect myself. What do I think of this episode? I think that it might be the best one this season, and it can accomplish that without any fights. My favorite scene for being a fan is probably still Salem and Oscar, but as an episode, this accomplished a lot. I wouldn't say answered a lot of questions, but it brought up a lot of things people talk about a lot outside of the show and put them in. Whether I like the Team RWBY fight one or not, doesn't matter, but we're getting the progression on Ren. That's fantastic. Ren's semblance was really fun, his evolution. Although he has gathered a death flag, at least. Or 2 death flags, one from Nora and one from his semblance. So there's a real but. It's really great. Nora's questioning herself, her possible character growth is fantastic with the way they've set it up. And then you have, like I said, the stuff with Whitley, I didn't expect that to hit me hard, especially that it didn't really the first time, but on the second watch through, really sort of stabbed me in the chest there for a second, and I think it was really nice. It was a really good way to use that character in a small scene with what I think was a good payoff, and things made sense, and you have, more things making sense, like Klein coming in, etc. You have a lot of character progression here. You have Ren coming to his realizations, hopefully about hiding his feelings, and bringing up to the Aesops how they truly feel and that they're all pretending. And you have Winter, you had her great scene of her realizing what her orders might mean, and then turning on the Aesops because, she does have emotions, and, Jaune put together a good enough excuse plan, at least in a way that fit into what she could rationalize so she could let them do it. You have development with Emerald possibly flipping, you have development with Mercury possibly flipping, you have development with Hazel, obviously, you have Oscar making a big play with revealing the name, revealing the password. That's really cool. And you have 2 different characters who learnt it, and they're both around. And then you have Salem, who is, distracted by what she's doing, so that's kind of interesting for everyone on the ship. I don't know where the lamp is, so that's also interesting. You have, Jaune and the team about to raid that very whale, so that could be bad or good. You've got a lot of really cool moving pieces. And then I said, you're setting up at the Schnee Manor with Penny arriving, and hopefully Nora getting some treatment. And you got little fan pops like Klein and that. And, the possible sort of cheeky chibi reference with the cannonball and all that. So, you've got a lot here to work with. It has a lot of praise for me because where a lot of times when RWBY episodes didn't have action scenes, people got very bored because sometimes, especially like, Volume 5 had all the issues, but in general, like, we've learned over time that these shows don't need action every episode. It's silly to think that they do, but sometimes they really didn't deliver when they didn't have, the cool flashy fight scenes. But here I think they did. They did a really solid show without much action, without much detailed action, which is, all the artists will kill me for that. No, they did a huge battle thing at the start, but you know what I mean. Like, no character fights. But you had so much progression on all of the characters in it, both on both sides, and you had payoffs for side characters like Whitley and Klein. Like, yeah, really good stuff. This episode's really great. The fact that we go on break now is very interesting. It's an interesting place to leave it because, yeah, you have all these jobs that are in the middle. No, like someone got stabbed cliffhanger or something like that, but we have a lot to work with. We have a lot to look forward to. We have a lot of things in the middle, so it's not a bad break point. And they really delivered with a lot of the animation before we went on break, after what I think 6 sort of, struggled on the animation, but they clearly put a lot more effort into this one, and that's probably where a lot of that effort went, so all makes sense. So yeah, that's the end of that. That's my thoughts on it. It was really good. Really happy with it. It looks like it won't be my longest episode, but it's getting close. Also, no shade to any of the artists, because look at how crazy this is, but I do like that it looks like they're all holding just like pipes, like they're a gang. It's gonna go beat up the Grim with just a bunch of steel poles. But anyway, no, this is a cool shot, cool bit of art. And yeah, so I think that's the end of it. Great episode. I'll round it off here. That, if you like it, if you have something to say, please let me know in the comments. Share it if you think others would like it too. Please subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you everyone for the support so far. And, if you want to see what I'm doing over the break, check out my update video. You'll see more from me soon. My name is Rigger. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.